My buddies and I take a guys trip every year, and this year we are going to Greece to go sailing in the Greek islands. We've planned this one for 2 years ago, so we've been planning this trip for about 2.5 years, and we kept having to push it back for COVID, so it got pushed back to last year, and then we had to push it back again, and we're actually going this time. Everybody is en route to their own airports, and we're headed out right now, so we are going to finally get to put this pin in the map. My journey has begun. I'm at my local airport, waiting to fly to Atlanta to head to Athens. And I'm a little bit worried because all of my buddies are on different flights and we're all gonna be arriving at different times. And right now there's a lot of flight cancellations and delays going on. There's this really frazzled looking bird that keeps flying around in the airport. But we're all on different flights and I'm really worried that somebody's not gonna make it. We're gonna have to adjust things on the fly. So we're gonna see how this goes. But we've got about, I think it's going to take me 14 hours with the layovers and stuff to get there, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm really excited, and we're getting this journey underway. It's an overnight flight from Atlanta to Athens, and I can't sleep on planes at all, so I was up all night just watching movies and whatnot. So a little bit tired, but made it to Athens. The Athens airport is crazy, but all my boys made it. There's my boys. Hey, boys. Let the adventure begin. Welcome to Paros, boys. We've chartered with Dream Yacht Charters a couple of times, and this time we have a Lagoon 42. This is just a real quick walkthrough of our boat so you can see what the living quarters for the next week are going to look like. We spent our first night just at the dock in Paros. We went out for dinner that night and enjoyed the town of Paros. Then we set sail first thing in the morning to head to Mykanos.
There were.
We're out here sailing and there's dolphins just cruising along with us.
We'll see them still. I can't.
Yeah, they're out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay. South, yeah. See the land? There, hey! Mermaids.
On adventures, things don't always go the way you had planned them, and today that is the case. We were on our way from Paros to Mykanos, and when we got all the way over to Mykanos, it's pretty windy today. It was about 25 knot winds. We got over to the pass between Delos and Mykanos, and we needed to take the sails down and motor in because it's too windy through that pass, and the wind comes in from the opposite direction that we needed to go. So we're trying to went to take the sails down, and the pulley on the Genoa broke. The pulley that's on the sail, so then the sail's just like flapping in the wind, and we have to try to wrestle it and get it tied up. So we got that tied up and went and tried to motor in, turn on the motors, and one of the motors has a problem. It only goes in reverse and won't go forward. So we tried to limp it in there anyway, but the wind was just too strong and one motor wasn't enough to cut it. So I've called in to Dream Yacht and they instructed us to return to Paros. So we're limping it back to Paros without a sail and with only one motor. So we're going all the way back across the water that we spent half a day trying to sail across in the first place. And it looks like we're not going to get to go to Mykanos, so that's a bummer. But here we are. We're still alive and we're on our way back to Paros, so we'll see how the rest of this trip goes. When we got back to Paros, we anchored in the island's north bay. We had an afternoon to kill, so we did a little bit of hiking around the north end. The scenery is pretty, but the island's pretty desolate, so there's no trees or anything. I got the drone out to try to fly it in the winds. It's nice to know that the drone can handle the 25-mile-an-hour winds. But trying to fight against the wind and go upwind, it was moving pretty slow. However, going downwind, probably hit about 50. Here we are on day 2 of our voyage. Dream Yacht has sent 2 guys out to fix the prop underneath the starboard side. They're pretty cool about everything. Appreciate all the help. They were able to get our boat fixed up in a pretty timely manner, so we pulled up anchor out of the North Bay on Paros and headed over to Naxos. We have successfully docked our boat at Naxos. Right outside the Naxos marina is an ancient temple of Apollo that sits up on the hill. This is an excellent place to watch the sunset. A lot of people gather up there for that. We also did try to catch a sunrise from up there, but that wasn't nearly as impressive. Naxos has been our favorite stop so far, even though it was an accidental stop. We didn't plan on coming here in our initial trip.
Amazing.
What do you guys think of Naxos so far?
Naxos has been really good. This is adorable and cute. I love it. It's really good.
Yeah, there were tons of restaurants and stuff like right by the dock where we got off the boat. So if you're coming in on a ferry or or you're bringing your own sailboat or whatever. Oh, sorry. Get in the way. There were tons of restaurants and stuff like all along there. Like there's just like a half a mile worth of restaurants and stuff. And we're walking around a back street right now, just checking out the sights. And it's really like there's so much just ambiance and food and clubs and everything. This has been the best stop we've had so far. Friday night, Dan's picking up some late night kebabs.
Some euros?
We docked up in Naxos and decided to stay for 2 nights because 1, we wanted a day off of sailing because it is really rough out there and we were kind of getting beat up, so it would give us a break, and 2, because they have ferries that go up to Mykanos and we're going to try to go to Dellos so we can continue to do the whole trip like we planned. So we bought our ferry tickets and we were supposed to go this morning. We started getting messages and notifications that both of the ferries, the one over and the one back, had been canceled and that we needed to get different tickets. Canceled for rough seas and high winds, which is why we probably had no business trying to make it to Mykanos in our sailboat. But they had other ferries that were gonna go, so we thought about getting more tickets and trying to get on a different ferry and going up there, but we were worried we'd get there and then the ferry back would be canceled. So we scrapped the idea of trying to make it up to Delos, and instead we're gonna rent some scooters and drive around Naxos for the day. We got our scooters, remember? Wear your helmet, safety first. Yeah, boy. So far in our scooter adventure, I highly recommend. It's a little bit unnerving driving around town because nobody really obeys any traffic laws or anything, so it's really aggressive and defensive. But then once you get out in the country, it looks like this, and it's beautiful. It's been a lovely ride. We've been riding our scooters through the countryside, and we stopped at the Temple of Demeter, except it's not open on Tuesdays, so we gotta crawl up some stacked up hay bales and look over the fence to see it. Should have brought the drone so we could fly it in there and get an actual picture, but here we are. We came, we saw. There it is. There's the Temple of Demeter through the fence from standing on the hay bales. We rode through several little towns as we drove across the island, and they're all very cute. We decided to stop at one of the towns and go for a walk, and there were all these little pathways that lead through the town. They went back to a church and it walked through some olive fields and through some grapevines. It was very pleasant. It was a very a beautiful, calming walk. These little pathways are pretty neat. Taste the local flavor. Watching Daniel and Justin ride their scooters really giving me some Harry and Lloyd vibes. I hope you get the reference. Little side streets in Naxos are pretty neat. So if you go to Naxos, don't stay on the main drag. You'll miss out on all the fun little nooks everywhere. This is the view from the Avion wine roof. It's a rooftop restaurant wine bar. Absolutely. Watching the sunset from the Temple of Apollo is a pretty popular spot. It's our last night in Naxos, so we just caught the sunset through the Temple of Apollo up on top of the hill. It was a really popular spot, a lot of people up there, but man, it was beautiful. Since it's our last night, we're gonna hang out on the boat a little bit and then maybe go out and see what trouble we can get into. First thing in the morning, we cast off out of Naxos and headed straight south toward Ios. Going south, we'll be going with the wind, so it's gonna be a much smoother sail. This is what life looks like on the boat when things are pleasant. We have left Naxos and we are headed to Ios. We're doing about 6.5 knots, straight downwind. This is so much more pleasant than it was going upwind a couple days ago. This is a really nice sail today. This is lovely. We're enjoying this very much. We anchored up in a cove south of the main port on Ios. There was a lovely beach there. We pulled in about 1 p.m. and had plenty of time to enjoy a little sunshine on the beach. So out here in Naxos, we decided to do something stupid and take a ride up the mast for the sunset, which is a pretty awesome view from up here on top. We initially planned on spending 2 days in Ios, but instead we decided to scrap the second beach day and head back north in order to have one last shot at going to Delos. So we are headed back to Paros. We were a little bit nervous that going back north into the wind that it would just be really brutal again as it was that first day. But so far, it's really not too bad. There's waves, but the wind isn't as strong as it was that first day. So we're getting about 15 knots of wind and doing 5 to 6 knots with our sails up. So far it's been pretty pleasant. We made it back to Paros and picked up some ferry tickets for the next day to head to Mykanos. We were really excited about that, me especially, because I wanted to go to Delos. That was my #1 choice of island to visit, and we had to scrap it early on in the trip. So having a chance to go here at the end is fantastic. The ferry that we took over to Mykanos was the slow ferry. The slow ferries are like small cruise ships. They're huge boats that have cafes and lounge seating. You can sit up on top. There was an experience in itself riding those. On the way back from Mykonos, we took a fast ferry, which is a different experience altogether, and you'll see that later in the video. Well, it only took 5 tries, 6 ferry tickets, and more euros than I was wanting to spend to get here, but we finally made it to Delos. Delos was first colonized around 900 BC, so some of these ruins can date back up to 3,000 years. Delos was finally abandoned in the 8th century AD after being ransacked by pirates. Much of the town is still visible today, even after thousands of years. Many of the columns and statues still stand. Delos was by far the island that I was most excited to see, and it did not disappoint. The amount of history here is incredible. What I'm impressed by the most was probably the mosaic floors that are still, you can still see the pictures that are laid into the mosaic floors. It really is incredible. On Delos, you can get a guided tour, or you can just explore the ruins and walk through the town at your own leisure. We decided to walk around on our own. However, do not go climbing on any of the ruins because they blow whistles at you when you do that, as we found out. Back in Mykanos, we had a little time to kill before our ferries, so we decided to take a little stroll through the town. Keeping true to the rest of the islands in the Cyclades, it has all the cute little alleyways full of shops and restaurants. We took the slow ferry on the way up to Mykonos, and we're taking a super high-speed ferry on the way back, and this thing moves. We're making another stop on the way back, and we're still going to make it back in the same amount of time. But man, this thing's flying. I'll take a shot out the window. This concludes our adventures in the Greek islands. Sailing around the Cyclades, we visited Paros, Naxos, Ios, Mykanos, and the highlight of my adventure was Delos. Overall, I would recommend the Greek islands to everyone. They are beautiful. The ancient ruins are fantastic. The people are wonderful. One of the great things is everybody speaks English, so getting around, the communication barrier is non-existent. I would, however, recommend taking the ferries unless you are just really looking for that adventure in the sailing, because it was rough and windy and the sailing was fairly difficult, at least for us who are somewhat novice at sailing. It was an adventure, to be sure. So anybody can go and take the ferries and visit the islands, and it is wonderful. Highly recommended. 3 of us are off to Athens to spend a few days, so you can catch that in our next video. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.